We are back. Slam pigs, union, smack, consistently this time. Thank you guys for all the feedback. It's good to be back after 9 months. Speaking of being back, welcome back one more time, my co-host for this show, Matt Shannon. What's going on, man? How you been?
I've been very well, thank you very much. And you can catch me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant and over with Logan on Future Wrestling Podcast on just about anything these days. Travis, I'll appear on anything, you know that.
That's true. That's totally true. And Over with Logan sounds like the name of a new show. I don't know why. It just has a nice ring to it.
No more ideas, please.
And as always, you can check me out on Twitter at TheBigTV. Hit that subscribe right down below. All the goodness, retro gaming, pro wrestling. We got your fix. But Matt, we are back, and we thought we weren't going to have a lot of news this week. Boy, were we wrong. Actually, before we get into anything UK newsworthy or any of that stuff, our review of the week, today was the day, 7 years ago, I believe, that we lost the Macho Man, Randy Savage, Matt. Real quick, not to depress everybody out the gate, but it's only right. One of the legit greatest of all time. Just thoughts and, his impact on you as a youth.
Yeah, I mean, apart from Ric Flair and obviously Hulk Hogan that we were all exposed to, Randy Savage was one of, my childhood heroes. He was one of the greatest wrestlers, one of the greatest talkers as well, Travis. Something he gets overlooked for, I think, a lot. And what a loss,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Do you remember the day reading the news when it happened? It hit me hard, man. I'm not going to lie. I borderline teared up. He's one of those guys that felt like you feel like we grew up with these guys. And for me, Randy Savage, especially in my youth, there was like a yin and yang to me as a child. It was Hogan and Savage right there. That was my inner circle, my two guys,
Yeah. I think most diehard wrestling fans know where they were the day Randy Savage died, or the day, the news came through. I remember thinking it was like a hoax at first, thinking it's such a ridiculous way to go. That it's got to be a fake story, surely. But
I kind of feel like, in a way, and I don't mean this to be cynical, and I hope nobody takes it wrong, but I feel like it's the perfect metaphor for him to go, because his life was a fast-paced car crash, if you really think about it. It was all
true.
It was really all over the place. And I think what makes it sadder, especially the day he died, right before that, it's like he was finally patching things up. He had that new Mattel figure came out. Remember, he had that, I think, was that his last, on-air appearance? Was that little interview for Mattel and WWE with the figure?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, so that made it even worse, because I feel like at least within 2 to 3 years in 2011, he would have been inducted in the Hall of Fame, if he had still been.
And when you think about it, others that were with him at the time in the 90s, like Hogan and Warrior. I mean, even Warrior got to do the Hall of Fame before he died.
Yeah.
It was sad, but his impact on the business and on us was huge.
There will truly never be another Macho Man Randy Savage. As much as Jay Lethal tries, and I love Jay Lethal, he's one of a kind. We will never see another just character like that who was just literally him in real life,
Yeah. And you didn't see many characters, then or even come through now that have it all, in ring, on the mic, even the charisma, in the street. It's just one of a kind.
Another thing that kind of gets lost in the shuffle as far as keywords describing Savage as a performer is innovative, especially for in America, because before that, especially up north promotions, you never saw that fast-paced style until like a Savage Steamboat and all that stuff. And
Yeah, and sorry, I believe he was maybe one of the first wrestlers to actually pace the match out on paper, move by move, he did with Savage at Mania 3. It's like the dedication it takes to sit there for weeks and say, right, this first, then we're going to do this, and so on. And then to actually just pull it off flawlessly.
What can you say, Matt? What a career. What a life. Rest in peace. Definitely Macho Man Randy Savage. Whether it was wrestling, whether it was making rap, it was anything. He was great. Loved his gig in Spider-Man. Godspeed, Randy Savage. Matthew, we finally have some competitors announced for the UK tournament. Actually, the entire list, though. Let's pick it up, get the spirits up. Lay it on me, my man.
Yes, finally. I thought this would never come out, but we have all 16 competitors for the UK Championship tournament. Round 2, should we call it round 2?
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2. There you go. So from the top, we have Joe Coffey, who I think he's my pick to win it. I think I said that last week, Travis.
Yeah.
He's so imposing. Zach Gibson, 205 Live's Jack Gallagher. Amir Jordan, who's a new one on me. Kenny Williams, El Ligero, Dave Mastiff, Joseph Connors, Travis Banks, Flash Morgan Webster, Jordan Devlin, who I believe you said would be in it last week, Tucker, Ashton Smith, James Drake, Tyson T-Bone, and that well-known British athlete, Drew Gulak. I mean, why? Jesus Christ.
And just to be contrary to you for a little in-house competition, I'm going to pick Dan Mastiff as my pick. So that way we don't have... Because I would have said Coffee too, but I feel like it would be just boring if we had the same pick. So we'll see. My biggest question to you before we get into any of our opinions on this, which I was saving, what is your opinion of this version of the tournament having an entire worldly type feel as opposed to last year, besides Andrews, who's Welsh, being strictly like a UK members only type deal?
I mean, I feel like last year's was more organic. You know, I feel like it sort of came out the gate and it was just this wonderful celebration of British wrestling. This time around, I feel like it's a bit forced. I feel like we've been waiting for the UK show for what seems like 100 fucking years. We didn't get anything. We got snippets on NXT and 205 Live. And to a degree, since this has been announced, I feel like it's a bit, you know what I mean, shoehorned in, just to, not so much to keep us quiet, but maybe to restart the brand as a whole. So,
or noticing that when they first the first go around, they cherry picked all the best from Europe and stuff. They built the talent back up like we said last week, and they won it again.
And it's not as if this tournament like lacks talent. I'd say a good 13 out of the 16 names, could sensibly win it, but I don't know. Like I say, it just feels a bit forced.
Even Joseph Connors.
No, he's one of the 3 that I'm going to kick out.
And you can't win even with 16 guys in. Like he can't even get in the top 13 in your ranking.
For me, like Joseph Connors, Drew Gulak, fuck's sake, and maybe Amir Jordan are all definite, like just there to take the pinfall in the first round.
Yeah. And it's kind of baffling too that they would go. As much as I love Gulak, you should have just snatched up Oni Lorcan, and Danny Burch. Just threw them in. You're gonna do that.
Yeah, and it's even more baffling, Travis, when you consider that Wolfgang and Mark Andrews and Danny Burch are now on, WWE contracts. So that's 3 UK guys right there that you could have replaced with you know what I'm saying, replace Gulak with.
Yeah, and people are going to make the argument, well, they want to put fresh faces in. Well, why is Jack Gallagher in there?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's Robin Hood tights. I don't get it. Well, I mean, these are going to be great matches. Of course, Matt and I are nitpicking because we love the first one so much, but I don't think anyone in it besides Joseph Connors, in Matt's opinion, is a shitty competitor. I think they're all solid workers and stuff. It's going to be a good show, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, there's only like a couple that I haven't actually seen. Amir Jordan and I believe Ashton Smith are the only ones I haven't seen wrestle. But yeah, it's going to be good. It's not going to be a shitstorm. It's just what they do with the winner. That's my main concern because he's not going to beat Pete Dunne, okay? And I'm not just saying that because I'm a massive Pete Dunne mark. I just can't see the title being taken off Pete Dunne right now. So, then how do you carry on the momentum? You bring him into NXT? Possibly. Do you, keep them out of the picture until this rumoured recording in December for a 2019 show. It's difficult, Travis. It's difficult because they established Tyler Bate really well last year after he won the title, but they were different circumstances. He was the first ever champion. It was easier to market that than it is really to market the winner of a tournament, but he loses the next night.
And I want all the listeners to mark this down real quick. This doesn't happen often, so that's why. I'm going to actually completely disagree with you. I think,
Okay.
okay, respectfully, of course. I think this the sole purpose of the tournament is it's just what you said at the very end. Just the winner of the tournament doesn't have a great ring to it. I think Pete Dunne is ready to get that belt off of him. I think that belt was to get him on the map more. He got his spot on Raw. He's gotten the nationwide exposure. He's still going on. He's just in progress. We'll get to a little bit. I think he'll be fine if he loses. I think the whole point of this part 2 is to make that next guy the new quote ambassador for the UK title. I think Pete Dunne has done an unbelievable job with that belt, but I think sometimes in wrestling it's just time. I think Pete Dunne's outgrown that title too. I think he deserves way more. And also this show falls on what? It's going to be the 390th day in the reign of Pete Dunne, right?
395th.
Which makes today, when we're recording this, what, Matt?
His 1 year anniversary. Congratulations, Pete, if you're watching.
Yeah. Congratulations, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like they're going out of their way to have a tournament for the guy just to lose it the next night. I mean, I don't see how that makes a star, I guess.
I mean, I can see that, Travis. But I think that the title hasn't made Pete Dunne. I think he's made the title. We talked about this last week. Like, it would have died a death, I think, had it gone on anyone else. I'm just not sure. I mean, all these guys, like, don't get me wrong, they're known to a hardcore UK audience who watch Progress, who watch ICW, who attend, house shows and live events regularly. But for me, over the past year, the UK Championship has been aimed not at them fans, it's been aimed at the fans who probably wouldn't have watched WWE or lapsed, maybe.
I legit only remember it being defended on WWE television the past year, maybe twice. And that was like, I feel like, it was Gargano and Roderick Strong. I was going to say, I feel like it was Strong both times, but it was like that was it, right? Besides the takeover, which was unbelievable.
No. He defended it against Tyler Bate just before Christmas, I think I'm right in saying, on NXT television. And I'm pretty sure he's defended it at least twice more. Don't quote me on it. I might be wrong. And he's going to defend it again against Kyle O'Reilly on an upcoming NXT.
Oh, that's going to be a tremendous match.
Actually. Yes. Yeah, it is.
But you're also totally right. It does feel like they're built to let the indie guy go around, like they're indie ambassadors type thing you're talking about. Like it got defended way more on indie shows this past year.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't even list the amount of times it has been defended at Progress, Destiny Wrestling, ICW, of course. You see, there's so many places he's defended it this year other than WWE that it's impossible to name them all.
Bold prediction time. 10 years from now, looking back, if everything goes as planned, as I feel like they want it, as you and me want this title to be booked and showcased 10 years from now, looking back, I feel like this could be one of the most important bursts of a title of all time, because this title comes off to me as the working relationship title. We're in an era with WWE we've never seen before, with this working relationship with the Indies. And that's what the title feels like, this harbinger type of bring us together. We are the world with all the little fucking indie guys. You know what I mean? And I think that's very. It's exciting in a way if it goes as planned.
Yeah, it is exciting, but there's got to come a point now where they distance the competitors and the title from what it's been. It's got to at some point carry its own show.
And I think it's another great reason the North American title's in NXT now, because this was the mid-card title in NXT. And that was and that's no slight against NXT because it's probably my favorite consistent wrestling show, but it was a downgrade. It was kind of a slap in the face for how good the tournament was, just to be like the IC version for NXT.
Yeah.
That's not the only thing going on in the UK though. So let's move the train along because we got a lot of show to get to real quick.
Yes, we do.
Progress Super Strong Style 16 was this weekend. Huge news coming out of this, but I've seen some clips. There was a Matt Riddle match, right? That was. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there was, and there was
Yeah, go ahead.
there was the annual tournament, the Super Strong Style 16 tournament, which Pete Dunne partook in, of course. He defeated Doug Williams in a first round match. Now, I've heard a few things about this, and it's been something I've looked for on YouTube. Maybe I've not looked well enough because I couldn't find it. But this apparently is a definite. It was only 10 minutes, but it's a definite watch if you can find it. So I'm hearing. And he lost by disqualification in the second round to Zach Gibson. So, yeah, and the big news obviously coming out of that is
Dragunov is here. Ilya
Yes.
Dragunov from WXW, a promotion you actually know nothing about. It's like the complete opposite with like the UK stuff. I'm not that. I'm all about it. WXW made surprise appearance with Pete Dunne in the ring. My wrestling boner was pitching a tent. My God, two of the hottest workers in the entire world, red hot. They're just great. This is a dream matchup right now, and the fans went crazy. The WXW fans were in attendance because it was a tournament, like you said, so they were going nuts. It was.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you're unfamiliar with Dragunov, which you are, Matt, if you pretty much check out any match with him and Walter, you'll be an instant fan. Just the stuff they're doing right now like I said with my buddy JD the other day, live stream. It's reminding me of the 04 feud with Joe and Brian Danielson. It's tremendous.
I'm going to have to start watching WXW, I think, because I'm hearing nothing but good things about it.
Yeah.
So I will definitely check that out. And the rumours circulating around the Dragunov Dunne match is that it will happen end of August, beginning of September, whenever the WXW Progress. Is it a dual show they're having? I'm unfamiliar with it, as you've already said.
I didn't know they named them after jewelry either, so that's new to me. I feel like torn in the middle too, because like two of my good buddies, you and my buddy JD, it's like your main guy's Pete Dunne and his is Dragunov, so I'm like, it's like a war now. Battle lines are drawn.
Yes, war.
Let's go to the Royal Albert Hall this week, man.
Let's. And we are actually going to October the 3rd, am I right?
Yes, October 3rd, 1991.
1991 for Battle Royal at the Albert Hall, which, Travis, I'd never seen this event before our lovely viewers voted it for us, so whatever happens tonight is their fault. Do you know, for the longest time, I actually thought this was Battle Royal at the Albert Hall. No, I thought this was Battle at the Royal Albert Hall.
That's crazy, because so did I, because the actual name of it, Battle Royal at the Royal Albert Hall, is one of the most confusing goddamn names I've ever had for a show in my life to review. It's too much Royale in there, man.
It's very 1991, isn't it?
Very, very. This is a show that they would always mention on main WWE programming, especially at Royal Rumble '92 time, a couple months later, for like the Bulldogs promos. But it was always that mystical show as a child I always really wanted to see because I was a huge Bulldog fan, but I never got to until recently. And boy, was I lucky as a kid, Matt. Good
You
God!
dodged a bullet and you didn't even know it.
Oh, Jesus.
So-
The hype over there at the time, real quick, do you remember there being any, or this was kind of just a home video release? Because it was from London. This is one of the bigger venues, with the history behind it. I'm sure it would have had to be mentioned over there. You can remember.
I'm sure it was. I was. Let me get this right. I was coming up for 3 years old, so I don't remember. I don't remember any hype about this at all. Looking back, I know there was some newspaper clippings, just like there were for like UK Rampage. I'm pretty sure I've seen some like very, very old BBC news clips about it happening. There wouldn't usually have been, but because it was like wrestling at such a classic venue, then I'm 100% sure it was covered quite a bit, but they're things I'm going to have to like look up to make sure I'm right about.
The Royal
It,
Albert
it,
Hall has a ton of history behind it. I don't know how much you know specifically, but you give our listeners any detail just what that building means over there.
I over here in England, it's a classic music venue more than anything. Wrestling has been held in there in the past. And I was researching this today, Travis. Like 1902 was the first recorded wrestling match in the Royal Albert Hall.
Wow.
So wow, exactly.
The
And it's not
setup
as
of
if
it, the setup of it is amazing. Like it has that
yeah,
Coliseum type feel. It also reminds me of the World Class Championship Wrestling Sportatorium Arena. How that was kind of
yeah. It's basically in a circle. You know, it's so the good thing is it's like with modern day arenas and stadiums, give or take a few, like you're stuck up in the bleachers a lot of the time and you can't see anything. In the Royal Albert Hall, there's going to be no need for video screens because it's that enclosed and that packed in that you will be able to see what's happening. And it's going to be like a get together.
for the better, for worse, for this show specifically. But the UK tournament this year is coming back to the Royal Albert Hall.
Yes, yes, it is. And I can't wait. Like, I mean, just like it's going to be the same as what we're going to review in a minute. The feel of it is going to be different. The feel of the first tournament was different because it was from a ballroom in Blackpool.
Right.
The look of it, but I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be really a real special feeling. Whatever happens on the night, whether WWE go out there and shit the bed with every match, I feel like it's still going to be remembered for the feeling alone.
And that was one of the best things about wrestling back in the day too, especially with ECW comes to mind. You say the ballroom. It was a ballroom at
Yeah.
Blackpool's one, but the way that show came across on television, the fans in the arena, the show in general, it put it on. It felt like it was in an arena, and that's a thing ECW did so much back in the day. These shitty little bingo halls just on television seem like these amazing places to be, but in reality, you go there, it's a dump. Yeah,
Yeah. Can I just put out this isn't a dump because it's royal.
right, right, right.
You're going to get no beer cans in the Royal Albert Hall thrown at wrestlers. You're going to get no bingo in the back happening while the show's going on at the same time.
But you're gonna have an organ there, a pipe organ on hand.
Oh, you can have a pipe organ. Yeah, like I was saying, the Royal Albert Hall is mostly used as a musical venue.
And
You
this was
know,
also that time too, where let's be honest, wrestling was winding down from the high of the '80s, and the steroid trial was right around the
yeah.
corner. There was dark times ahead for a few years. This was also a stacked ass roster of talent at the time, but most of these guys were gone within a year or two before it was the new generation type roster they would go to in the future. But let's get down to the brass tacks match, Matt. Dark match. This go go ahead. I'll let you do it.
Yes, the dark match. And thank fuck this wasn't included, Travis, because Stephen Regal, who everyone listening will know as William Regal, I have double checked that. Defeated Brian Maxine, who, I'll be honest, was a new name to me until about 3 hours ago. I had to look him up. And you know what? I'm surprised he came across Vince McMahon's radar because this guy wrestled one or two matches a year for about 40 years, didn't retire till 2008. He held, unbelievably, even though he hardly wrestled, the British Welterweight Championship and the PWF Tag Team Championships, and wrestled mostly for All Star Wrestling over here in the UK. So I bet that was a little treat to get
He
everyone
he paved the way for
ready.
guys like Brock and Goldberg and so many others.
Yeah,
That is interesting. I wish there was footage of a young Regal, and by that time in '91, he had already had like 6 or 7 years because I think he debuted in '85. So that just goes to show how much time in the business Regal's had.
exactly. He made his name, of course, on World of Sport over here, and yeah, the future was bright for him.
And the rest is history, basically.
Rest is history.
Speaking of history, my favorite tag team as a child, admittedly, is the Rockers. I'm pretty sure you admitted it last week, but if not your favorite, one of your favorite was the Nasty Boys, correct?
Yeah, Nasty Boys and Natural Disasters, which I believe I mentioned when we did our SummerSlam '92 review
Yeah.
last year. If anyone's new to the channel, do go and check that out, along with everything else we've done. I don't know what it was about the Nasty Boys. Like, I think I was just a heel. You know what I mean? A heel child. I was going to say, like that makes any
They
sense.
seemed
I was just,
edgier. They came along. They were more
yeah,
called up to time. They felt more '90s than '80s at that time. Early '90s, just
yeah,
their look and the whole
yeah,
skater die gimmick, just their look and the shaved like punk rock mullet things, whatever.
yeah.
It
They
was
were
fun.
cool.
It was a
I
fine
mean,
way to
those
kick off
guys,
the
like,
show too. I feel like.
it was a good match. You know, surprisingly. I mean, looking back on who we used to love now, like I believe you said at one point last week you used to love Kamala, and now looking back, you're like, holy shit.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's way worse teams you could have been into as a kid. I'm not saying like you're wrong for liking the Nasties at all. This was like
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Surprisingly, a good match and a good way to open the show, considering considering what was to come.
This
I thought the Rockers carried the match superbly for what they had to work with in opponents. It lost. Let's be honest, Travis. It lost a little bit of momentum when the Nasty Boys took over. But
couple
what do you
things down here on
expect?
my notes. Jerry Sags drank a 30 pack of beer before coming out because he said fuck off. I read on his lips like when they first made their entrance and like they climbed the second turnbuckle to pose, he said he like flipped off the crowd or something and said fuck off. So he seemed a little off in this match. He was animated, I should say, about Sags. Didn't seem
Yeah,
sloppy or dangerous, just a little more animated than usual, maybe a little more R rated. The match I felt like was fine, just a little way too much time given to it. This match clocked in at 16:21, and the thing about the Rockers, as much as I love them, especially in '91, I don't know why they had this. They kicked off the Rumble '91 that year with the match with Orient Express. I remember, but I remember that getting like 20 minutes. They'd always give this team way too much time, and for a fast paced team, I feel like less is more with time sometimes. And this era
yeah.
especially, but then maybe that's just me.
But then let's be honest, Travis. It's like it wasn't just them on this show. Every match got a good at least 10 minutes. I mean, there was probably some that went eight. I think I read,
One match on
but
this card clocked in under 10 minutes.
wow, what just the one?
One
What,
match, and
can,
the
can
one
I?
right behind it, second to last, was like 9 minutes and 50 some seconds. So
It's surprising that some of the matches got that that little. When one match coming up got a staggering 16 minutes of nothingness.
exactly.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, we'll definitely get there, unfortunately. But I do want to also on my notes about this match specifically. This is right at the time they were pulling the trigger on the Rockers breakup, and you could see in the
Mhm.
mannerisms of Shawn during the entrance that they were still carrying that storyline, even on this special quote house show. Um, Also, during real life, the Rockers were going through tension too. So later in the Battle Royal, when they made their entrance, they ran out together, but they split immediately. They never hung out during it. You could tell during this match the chemistry was just off a
Yeah,
tad. Like they just kind of phoned it in because they hated each other at the time. But that just stood out to me. But I also feel like
yeah,
it tied in
yeah,
well with the storyline, as we would come to see with the tournament, like a month at Survivor Series.
yeah. There was definite tension there. You don't have to be a wrestling historian to tell when there was tension. I mean, was it just me, or did Shawn Michaels look like he would have rather have been anywhere else?
No, I completely agree. And that's the thing at first. I think he was the guy that made it stand out. At first, I was like, oh, yeah, this is right around the time they started teasing the breakup. But then I thought about all the shoot interviews I've heard. Like, no, they really fucking hate each other, actually.
Yeah, and that's how it came across. But credit to them for still like holding a good match together, even though Michaels wanted to be sniffing something somewhere else, and
Right.
Marty Jannetty wanted to be sniffing something a million miles away from him.
Not sharing a line at all. Let's move the train along. Fine match. The Nasty Boys getting the win here. What did you think of the finish, Matt?
Um, Probably could have been done better. Um, but do you know what? It did the job, Travis. You know, it did the job it was meant to do. It got what's the right way to put it? Like a heel momentum rolling,
It got the fans warmed
and
up,
that
basically.
it got the fans warmed up, and it also kicked off like a massive streak of heel victories. I mean,
Oh yeah,
more so I believe than any I've ever seen on one show.
yeah. I'm
Like
looking at my list here. It's ungodly. There's the bad guys on the show and getting the win.
like the results, like the card was top heavy for results in the heels' favour on this, and obviously that was done to make Davey Boy's eventual victory seem more
Right.
momentous.
Also,
But
at the time, a big one. Speaking of Davey and just the show in general, because I feel like we're going to keep going back to this a lot. Hulk Hogan, champion at the time, nowhere on the show. Ultimate Warrior had just left the company, holding up Vince at SummerSlam a couple months earlier. Hogan, they kept
yeah,
saying it on commentary, sprinkling it in, saying he wasn't there. Then Gorilla Monsoon, well, he's making a movie, he's up on him. But I don't know if it was a fact that he wasn't there or he wasn't booked to counteract the popularity of Bulldog.
that's a good point. I think if you had have booked Hogan, it probably would have, demeaned the Bulldog's presence and his eventual victory. I also don't think Hogan would have done the job for the Bulldog in a battle royal.
And I was all, yeah, took the words out of my mouth. I think this is also a Terry call too, not to be there. No way,
Yeah,
brother.
I
Take
also
my
think they
shot.
replaced Hogan with Piper.
Right. Yeah. Because Piper could easily just, whatever. Piper, he was a top guy, but he was a top guy who I don't think would be hurt in defeat as much as a Hogan would at the time.
Exactly, yeah. And let's not forget, like, Piper had his own little thing going on with Ric Flair at the time.
And they were smart. I'll
Hogan,
give them this. Yeah, exactly. And they were smart about that battle royal, which we'll get to later. We're spoiling it, but it's hard not to. They were smart
it
about the
is.
promo they gave Piper about saying that he doesn't care if he wins, he just wants to get Flair. And that was like their easy way out of, well, it doesn't matter if Piper didn't win. He got to punch Flair, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't have done that with Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan would have had to. And this was just before Hogan lost the title to the Undertaker as
Yeah.
well.
This was taking
So
time.
he was not going to take like two overshadowings in the space of a month.
A lot of people don't talk about this. In 1991, I know we're a little all over the place, guys, but that's fine. In 1991, Hulk Hogan, after WrestleMania 7, he never had a like direct angle quote slash feud after that. It was just
No.
a couple more filler matches with the Slaughter stuff, and then this was that era of nothing for Hulk. It could have been making the movie, but there was just until Taker. You're right. It was just one offs and stuff.
Yep. So I think if whether Hogan refused to do it, whether he refused to play second fiddle to Davey Boy or Vince just said just have a few nights off. I think it was for the best, because I couldn't honestly, Travis, I couldn't have took Hulk Hogan and the British Bulldog on one card.
They would have split the audience, and in '91 that was a big no-no. Certain
Yeah,
times, maybe a Warrior and a Hogan, but that was for passing of the torch situations. Piper and Brett,
but
stuff like that.
can you imagine a Bulldog match that we got later in the show, followed by a Hogan match that would have been probably just the same?
Hmm.
It's like if the show wasn't long and boring enough as it was, I know Hogan would have popped the crowd and people wouldn't have cared about his match, but
They would have
30,
they would
nearly
have booked
30 years
themselves
later,
into
we
a corner
care.
just having Hogan on the show because there's no way Hogan could follow the Davey Boy match for the crowd reacting the way Terry would want it to. He would be unhappy,
Yeah,
and B, I just feel like it's just negates the whole point of the Bulldog being on there.
yeah, it does, and there was enough long, boring ass matches on this card
Yeah,
without Hogan adding.
just terrible matches.
It's terrible
The
matches,
last good
and
match though is up next.
it was amidst. Can I say, Gorilla Monsoon must have said the name of the trophy, which we will get to, that the Battle Royal participants were fighting for. Must have said it 20 times in the first 10 minutes.
If
And that's just the
anyone
first 10
listening to
minutes.
this watches the show and wants to make a drinking game out of this, you're dumb, and you deserve to get whatever health problems come with it. Because yeah, it was said way too many times. Even as much as they said the name of the trophy, you and I are both like, how do you pronounce it? Because it's like Royals Russian Saddle Bomb something.
Exactly. Something like that. And I don't know. I forgot the name of the trophy. Maybe 30 minutes after watching this. Is that bad? Is it bad that he said it? Must have said it 100 times. And 30 minutes after watching this, I was like, fuck, I can't remember the name of the trophy.
I think it just goes to show sometimes, yes, it's neat and it's a cool concept to make things feel more worldly. But quite frankly, when you're trying to reach an entire demographic of casual, when things are hard to pronounce, that's a mistake sometimes.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
keep it
that is
keep it
true.
simple sometimes.
That is true.
That's just simple logic, I feel like, with any form of entertainment. The easier it is to remember, I mean, like the most quotable movies are the ones with the most simple dialogue, I feel like, too. The ones you remember.
That is very true. And I will say that they hyped this trophy to be something fucking spectacular. And when we were actually shown it with me and Gene backstage,
Yeah.
my God, have you ever seen such a tatty piece of shit in your
It
life?
looks like you could just pick it up at a rummage sale for like $10.
Exactly. And that
Somebody's dead
looks
grandmother's
exactly like what
ashes
they
are
did.
still in it. It looked even more cheap every time I saw Lord Alfred Hayes standing next to it. Like, I don't know why Al Hayes is such a downgrade in everything wrestling. And of course, because it's a fucking UK show, he had to be the voice narrator for the opening graphic. He had to be fucking God. He had to introduce the Bulldog later. There's plenty of Lord Hayes on this show again. Believe it or not, guys.
Oh my God, stop it.
I could have swore, by the way, next match is Tito Santana and Ric Flair, and on paper you guys want to
Yes.
laugh, but this is a good match. But I could have swore Tito was El Matador by now, but he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. Was he El Matador for the Rumble in '92?
He was El Matador at Survivor Series '91 a month later.
See, I thought he was, but just a change like that, just to flick him.
Because I
Jesus
remember at
Christ.
the time, as a kid, there were weeks of buildup for him going back to Mexico and rediscovering his roots. I just feel like he was kind of shoehorned on this just for as an easy opponent for Flair. But
Yeah.
watching the match, he wasn't booked like a pushover. He was booked like a top guy. The way that the resiliency and the figure four forever and just this was not a squash match. It was very good.
Yeah, it was something you'd probably expect to see, you know, in the NWA, Flair against a mid card guy, or even, a top guy in the territories, and making him look like he belonged in the main event. And there's not often you can watch. Tito Santana was a good wrestler, solid IC champion, um, but I never remember watching him Hall of Famer. I never remember watching him thinking like he could be a great main event talent. Yet here, wow, I think it just also goes to prove that there's some wrestlers who could have a good match with anyone. They can make anyone look good, and Flair was that guy. Fuck, he made Lex Luger look good when
Yeah.
Lex Luger had no right to look that good.
And I know you always say Ric Flair is one of your favorite guys of all time, and me too. And I think another reason too is
Oh, my favorite, yeah.
just standing in a ring with Flair in a one-on-one, just standing in there puts you on another level. It just makes you seem more than you're worth, and that's what it did with Santana here. Totally, I totally agree with you. And this did have an NWA feel, and that's what I was thinking watching. I was like, I was actually thinking watching it, because Santana was IC champion, what, like 85 or something. I was like, did these guys
Yeah,
probably worked in like the territories in the early 80s before this? As top
yeah, they
guys in different.
probably did.
Yeah.
They probably would have. Probably over the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. And I'm pretty sure I've read like you know they came together at some point.
Yeah.
I wish Travis that the only downside about this match was it felt like they gave us Flair with the WCW Championship as a replacement for not seeing the WWF Championship on the show.
In a
Maybe
way,
that
but
was
that
just
was the
me.
gimmick at the time because then they would,
I,
they
I,
would.
I know it was a gimmick, but he could have easily left that in America. It was like no one cared in England if he had the title with him or not. I just feel like that was sort of crowbarred in, just like you've not got Hogan, you've not got the main title, just have that one instead.
And let's be honest. Let's be completely honest. As big as a star as Ric Flair became in America at the time in the '80s for a rival promotion for number two, as he was still a household
Hmm.
name. But I feel like in this time, Flair wasn't as big in the UK and Europe because, quite frankly, the reaction wasn't what you would expect. Considering guys like Fucking God, Duggan, Kerry Von Erich, so many guys got big. Tito Santana got a bigger reception than Ric Flair, and I think that's
Yeah.
something people don't talk about a lot. Is Flair wasn't as big over there at the time.
No, and that's because we didn't get a regular Crockett WCW program over here in the early 90s. You know, if you wanted to watch, yeah, WWF had their deal with Sky, which still goes today. But if you wanted to watch WCW or NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, you really had to seek out like VHS tapes.
Yeah.
You know, the first ever match I saw was Flair versus Steamboat at Chi-Town Rumble, and that was only because my granddad had it, recorded on VHS by one of his friends, and showed it to me like at 3 years old.
You just threw your granddad under the bus for bootlegging wrestling back in the day. Way to go, Matt. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding. That's awesome.
cheers,
That's
granddad.
awesome. These are the days of tape trading that people, today don't get. That yeah, that's exactly what Matt's talking about. I did it with ECW tapes in the day, but
Yeah,
I figured that Ric Flair, wasn't as over. But then I saw a little girl during the entrance. I don't know if you caught her. She looked incensed with rage and hatred for Flair. That just shows how good of a heel he was, I think. Just in presentation alone, as little as they knew, it was enough for children to despise this man. She was just above spitting on him. Like she did everything but, I feel like. I don't know if you saw who I'm talking about.
I didn't see that, but I can understand why. Like, he wasn't, admittedly, he wasn't huge over here, but I mean, sometimes the name carries more weight than when the person it's attached to. And even though like we've rarely seen Ric Flair over here, if I'm being honest, until he stepped onto a WWF stage, and then he was like, "All right, we know who he is now." um, the name Ric Flair, like you'd still heard it, even if you hadn't really seen him wrestle.
Right. Well, it was that immediate stamp of
Yeah,
approval too for people that didn't know who he was from Bobby Heenan, who would just gloat on and on. And I feel like
yeah,
I think a reason Flair caught on so fast as a heel and became credible is because he was like a wrestling version of Bobby Heenan. You know what I mean? Like he was a
yeah,
character wise, like
yeah, exactly.
for WWF.
Also, was it just me during this match, Travis, or did it get to a point? And it could have been just me. It lacked a little bit of tension for me. Technically it was good, but halfway through it just felt like they were going through the motions.
Yeah. I feel like Flair, this is one of his first matches too. He was probably just, quite frankly, getting used to the WWE style, the ring, the ropes, the camera
Yeah.
angles, just the execution too. So getting his feet wet. Wait, and Flair won the match, by the way. He
Yes.
at one point had Santana in the figure four, which felt like forever. You know,
It's true. It did. It did.
crowd really invested in Tito in this match, which surprised me. But as much as I could talk about Flair for 2 hours, we unfortunately have to talk about an earthquake promo, man, and a Boss Man promo.
And a big Boss Man promo, which were both just inadequate. Boss Man was reading his promo. Um, Earthquake and Jimmy Hart came out onto the stage, and like they had a little platform set up with, was it Mean Gene? Yeah, with Mean Gene on it.
Hmm.
And yet the wrestlers he interviewed, they just didn't say anything. It was like what, 30 seconds, if that.
Blah 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 blah. Basically, is what Earthquake said in this. And then it was really unique for this time too. Right after the interview, they would like follow him to the ring down the entrance because it was right there.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
streamlined.
Let's be honest. This could have been done backstage, before they
Yeah.
turned up or earlier in the day. There was no need to have Mean Gene out there
Or just not do
interviewing
an
wrestlers.
Earthquake promo at all. If I'm booking, where you just skip that off the sheet.
This was a time like when the Natural Disasters were just coming together as a heel tag team. And what we got next, Travis, was, I don't even want to talk about this match because I sat through it. And for anyone who doesn't know, it was Earthquake versus the Big Boss Man. 16 minutes.
16 minutes of rest
16
holds.
minutes of.
Ugh. Not even just rest holds. I know that sounds cliche. Not just bad pandering, bad heel work, sloppy, blown up shit, phoned in. I'm working a house show, pin me, pay me. Just God, there's gonna. For as over as the Boss Man was, I feel like the only guy he ever fucking beat was the Mountie. Ever. He always
Yeah.
lost. Always.
Yeah. Did he beat Nails?
Oh, you're right.
This is another.
You're right.
This is another show, Travis. Like last week's, where I feel like I know less things coming out of it. Like I had all this knowledge in my head, but
He beat
watching this
Nails,
is
you're right. But it's still, that's two guys I feel like he's ever beaten with this run. And it just, and that goes to show how over he was. He stayed over, but don't ever go out of your way, guys, to watch this match. It's as bad as, it's actually better on paper than it turned out to be, looking at it on paper.
yes, much better. If there's to shave 10 minutes off of this, it would have still been horrendous.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. Like shortening the match wouldn't have helped at all. It was just that bad. Earthquake looked like an old granddad falling to the canvas. He was just like, he might as well have just sat down, then laid down in that sequence every time he was knocked down because it looked abysmal.
Yeah, it did. But it didn't get any better. The next was a Mountie promo, and I know we usually save what drug is he on for Davy Boy, but a Kerry Von Erich promo, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want from it? You know?
I want substance. I want something. I want a reason to be watching it because what I got from both men's promos was blah 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 house show. That's every promo on this. I don't mean
The
to
only
keep doing it.
substance in these promos was in Kerry Von Erich's body, let's be honest.
Well, let me tell you, Gene, I'm really excited. I'm happy to be here. I'm high as fuck, and I'm gonna go out there. Yeah, that's every goddamn Texas Tornado promo. Let me tell you about tornadoes, Gene. They're unpredictable. Wow.
And he looked as rough as arseholes, didn't he? Didn't he look like they just dragged him out of a skip?
They really did. They looked like they pulled him off a 4-day bender. He was covered in sweat for the promo alone. Like the back of his hair was soaked. It was brutal. The match, though. The Mountie. This was the time right after the Mountie lost the Jailhouse match with the Boss Man at SummerSlam 2 months before.
Yeah.
But still, somehow the Mountie had momentum. He would win the IC title a couple months after this. But it's as silly as a character as the Mountie was, Matt. He was always booked pretty goddamn strong.
Yes, he was. And Mountie was one of them cartoon characters that I loved as a child. Again, heel-loving child. But it's annoying, Travis, because this is the second show in a row that we've reviewed, and let's be honest, the second show in a year that WWE came over here with, where the Mountie was just thrown into any match, without thought for. He could actually put on a pretty decent technical match if we gave him, Bret Hart, who wasn't on the show, if we gave him anyone other than fucking a 1991 Kerry Von Erich or Virgil.
Because he's still Jacques Rougeau. He could work his ass off for the time. And also, this is the first time I thought I'd never say this, actually. I would have swapped out Mountie and put him in the main event with Bulldog and put the Barbarian in here with Kerry Von Erich.
That's a good call. You see, that's a good call. But no. Of course, that's not what WWE do. Mountie, cartoon characters, just throw him onto the mid-card, regardless of his skill level.
I have down here on my notes, too, for this match. Kerry Von Erich, stoned out of his gourd, didn't even bother matching his ring attire for this. Just all over the place. Just purples and pinks and yellows and fucking... Good God. The match was... Considering how good these guys could work in this era, the stuff we'd seen from both, just fucking slop fest, phoned in bullshit again. Just nothing. One spot stood out to me. It's when they were on the outside, and the Mountie was up against the ring post. Tornado goes for his tornado punch, hits the post. That was like the turnaround spot in the match where the Mountie would finally take momentum. It sounded good. It sounded like you could hear the bone pop. That was the one bright spot out of this match. But then Tornado stopped selling it in 2 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do?
And it was a shit fest. I mean, I don't even think Bret Hart could have made this look good. Like Bret Hart versus Texas Tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what did that take us to next, Matt? Because I'm tired of negative star matches.
Well, there's a few more to come, Travis. So, Mountie won that, by the way, with feet on the rope. That took us to the funeral parlor promo segment with the Undertaker and Paul Bearer. What can you say about that? Standard Undertaker promo for the time.
Standard Undertaker, but I have written down here the way they shot this camera angle from like below him. His face literally looked like a deformed zombie with the lighting on it. I think this was done tremendously for its time. Just the way they shot Taker was brilliant. They knew what angles he would look scary from, and I had no clue because neither one of us had watched this before. I didn't have the card up. This actually got me hyped. I was like, finally, something good's going to happen. It couldn't get worse than Sid versus Taker. I had no clue who the opponent was. Cut to Matt.
Cut to Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus The Undertaker.
And it got fucking
best
worse.
part of the match? You're right there. I think the best part of this match, we can both agree, was The Undertaker's entrance. The Phantom of the Opera-esque organ player at the top of the Royal Albert Hall playing The Undertaker to the ring. I think that was extremely well done, even though it was barely audible.
Yeah. And people probably thought at the beginning of the episode I was being a snide asshole making a joke about the pipe organ, but this was the reason. There was an in-house pipe organ, which Vince McMahon was also a genius of using stuff there. Well, let's throw this in. So they used it. They went with it, and I feel like it worked. It was maybe the best part of the show was this entrance, and it had a creepy... And I think the reason that the fact that it was quieter made it a little bit more creepy. It made like that somber feeling over the crowd because kids shit their pants at The Undertaker at the time, to be honest.
Yeah, they did. I did, you did, we all did. I think that's credit to how WWE went about. Like you said, sometimes just shooting his promos, booking him against baby faces. Let's be honest, the character had no right to work, even in a cartoon era like they were entering. Yeah, that character had no right. They were originally going to give it to the Berserker. So
they did. And it
did, and
as great as the entrance was, and you're right, it should have never worked, but it was working. As great as the entrance was, it was ruined by a hoe. Ho goes to the arena. Jim Duggan is everything that made sense about using the organ to enhance the entrance. As fast as things happen, fast as things can change. It went from everything making sense to nothing making sense. Coming out with an American flag, waving it loud and proud, people eating it up. I'm just trying to grasp the logic and why but we say you were just so happy to have wrestling over there. It didn't matter. And I guess I look at it as an allied powers type of thing, like we're the friends of the UK. But it's hard to grasp the concept of doing this gimmick over there. I'm sorry.
It is. But like you say, we were starved for wrestling. If that was today, if an American hero came into the UK waving his flag, he would get a fuck off job.
He'd get egged.
But let's be fair.
Yeah.
But this was 1991, Travis. We were like, oh, thank God, some wrestling. So we'd have chanted anything. If Jim Duggan had been Australian, we'd have been chanting for Australia.
Aussie, Aussie, ho, 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 something.
Something like that.
I kind of have noticed from Duggan over years of watching Duggan, but this match stuck out like a sore thumb. The ungodly amount of no selling Jim Duggan does. He sold literally nothing for Taker in this, and I could see it on Taker's face. He was getting flustered. I would have been pissed. I would have pulled that motherfucker aside if I was Taker after this. Like, look. I don't know where the fuck you think you are. This isn't Mid-South. Bill Watts doesn't have the book. You're not a top guy. I'm next in line for the Hogan. Could you throw me a fucking bone?
Yeah.
Good God.
I think if Taker had been, if this had been like 2 or 3 years later, and he'd have had that sway, he probably would have. But I think he didn't want to rock the boat at the time. Right. Like you say, he was next in line to Hogan. He was about to hit the biggest pinnacle of his career thus far. He didn't want the heat that would have come with it, because Hogan, fucking hell, Duggan was more, held more power with Vince, I think, than
Oh yeah,
than Mark Calloway did at the time. So
totally did.
it wouldn't have
But
got him
you're right.
anywhere.
2 years
Just
later,
knocked down.
get your ass in wrestler's court. Would have happened.
Exactly. And Duggan, another. Do you know what? Second, I didn't realise this until I went back and looked at my notes for UK Rampage. Second Duggan screwy finish, like 2x4 to the Undertaker for the DQ.
Jim Duggan's character was notorious, I think, throughout his entire WWF career. Like,
Hmm.
he wouldn't even be behind in a match. He would just grab his weapon out of nowhere and just hit the guy. That would be it. And fans cheered him for it. Like, it was like the ultimate heel shit he did all the time.
He was probably coming down off of the high that he was on before the match and needed something to stabilise it. So as quick as he could.
He cut 10 minutes off the match himself just to go get more coke. That's what he did there. I'm out of here, brother. What can you say though, Matt, about how bad this showcase was for Taker? I felt so bad for Taker watching this, and I know you're the biggest Taker fan in the world. So just your thoughts on this, real quick.
I thought Diggin.
Digging? He's digging himself a hole.
I've lost it tonight. Duggan. He did a lot to bury the Undertaker. I think in this match, he didn't give two fucks. Yeah, no pun intended. He gave no fucks, about what this would look like on the Undertaker's resume, even like how the Undertaker would look coming out of this. And let's be fair, the Undertaker looked pretty weak coming out of this. If you'd have pointed the Undertaker out to a non-wrestling fan and said that's the man who's going to win the world title from, this patriotic fucking hero next month, they'd have called you a liar.
They'd have called you a liar, Mean Gene.
Mean Gene. That's how bad the Undertaker looked coming out of this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, if I was Taker, I would have been pissed, and I was pissed for watching this, and I was ashamed by Duggan.
Yeah.
Speaking of just no fucks given, one of the most potential I've ever seen in a team in quite some time was Power and Glory. I always felt like they were worth more than they were booked like. And up next was a tag team title match, LOD and Power and Glory, the rematch from WrestleMania 7 squash match. Thankfully, this didn't go 30 seconds like there. Promos from both teams, and no slick by this time for Power and Glory, I want to add, but maybe the best Power and Glory promo I've ever seen them cut. They came off the screen in this.
They did, and I don't think I've ever seen anything else with Hercules in where he's looked so passionate. And, the one thing that I took away from this is he was actually a good talker when he was allowed to do it.
Roma, too, I felt like. This was one of the better Paul Roma promos I've ever seen.
Yeah, take the mouthpiece away from him and make him do it themselves, and you've got you've got two good talkers. I got the feeling that Hercules had been waiting for this moment for like 4 years, however long he'd been around. I think since '87, he'd been there.
Yeah.
He looked like they'd literally taken the chains off of him.
I see what you did there. Is it just me too? This time, because Hercules was out of the company in a couple months. This was long hair, mustache Hercules. It never looks like Hercules when you go back watching him in a match. And this was like one of the few times when I heard him talk, I was like, oh yeah, it is Hercules. He always looked like a different person to me, like Ted Arcidi from WCW or something. Just when he shaved that beard and grew the hair, I was like a different guy.
Yeah, and he'd lost a lot of the steroid muscle that he'd put on. Like, he was a lot thinner in this match.
He didn't take steroids. Come on.
Travis, don't say I'm breaking this to you right now.
God, you floored me with that news.
Spoiler alert, guys. He took steroids. Have I just crushed your childhood right here?
You crushed my childhood last week when you said you never got how over the LOD were. But let's get to the LOD and another carbon copy fucking promo from our last show we reviewed, basically.
Yeah. Animal quite clearly has some anger issues just coming out of this promo. I don't see what he was so angry at. He was shouting at everything. Hawk was just more listing.
It was comedy hour with Hawk because he called him sour and gory. He made his little his little puns that he loves to make. It was always comedy time with Hawk and serious time with good cop, bad cop time.
Yeah. Listing all the injuries he seemed to know, which to my mind were exactly the same as he came out with at UK Rampage '92. All the things he was going to do to Power and Glory, blah blah. Let's be honest, if you've heard one LOD interview, you've heard them all.
I was a little bit more impressed with this one. Just I didn't know Hawk had a medical doctorate. Like he was on his shit with these ailments and just naming things he would do. So it's good memory of Hawk. Whatever textbook cue card he had to memorize 30 seconds before that between the cocaine lines and partying. 9 minutes, 8 seconds. Quite frankly, I would have given this match a little bit more. What wasn't awful. I wasn't great, wasn't awful. Better than WrestleMania 7 squash match. But I mean, if that's the best I can say about it, it wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean, it was the best match out the, four that had preceded it? 3, 4 that had preceded it?
2 matches.
So,
yeah.
Well,
This was easily main event Superstars. This was Superstars main event right here at the top.
Oh, yeah. It was a complete television match. But, can I just say, I've noted this down. One of the creepiest things I've seen in wrestling in the last 5 years, maybe, is Hercules stripping Paul Roma like he's a child ready for the bath. Like, just slowly peeling his top off of him.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And you know what that reminds me of too is also creepy. Like the Heart Foundation would come out and Brett would stand in the corner and Jim would get all close to him and take his glasses off for him over his head like his daughter or something.
Yeah.
That was a little weird too. Where do you go for that? You go to London's 2 favorite sons, I guess. Is it time for what drug is he on this week?
It is. Needless to say, LOD won that last match.
Yeah.
I don't think we had to tell anyone that. Yes, we went to Mean Gene and the Bulldog for another promo. I'm not even going to classify it as bad. It was...
Let's do it. I fired first shot, so it's your turn this week. Matt, without further ado, what drug is he on?
Certainly cocaine, judging by this, and large quantities of it. The look in his eye, Travis, he could have killed you just by the look. Yeah. And can I say, do you remember last year when we were doing this, and we were so annoyed and so on the calling him his hometown anywhere he performed in the UK.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they did it again, 1991. Like they did it again with Mean Gene saying, Davey Boy, just around the corner, and keep going 4 hours. It's like Manchester, where he was born, and London, miles away. Like Mean Gene, just around the corner. And then you have to keep going 4 hours.
Imagine them doing that now with Roman. Wherever he's at, they say it's his hometown, and how much that would shit the bed. Like for a heel, that would work tremendous, but. Good, yeah. You're so right. And 1 week it was Manchester, Sheffield, but he was from Leeds, right?
Yes, he was from Leeds, which is like an hour away from Manchester. So
right,
you have to go even further to get to Leeds from London. So they were talking out their asses there. But I have to say, Bulldog didn't do himself any favours by correcting them. He was just like. The Bulldog smells victory in his hometown against the Barbarian. Yeah. Oh, and I believe those are the words Davey Boy Smith said. I've noted them down here. Thanks for that. Thanks for clearing that up, Bulldog. That was a lot of fucking help.
And after the promo, cut to Lord Alfred Hayes in ring. The first time I can ever remember him as a ring announcer, and maybe the worst ring announcer I've ever heard as far as invoking emotion. It was literally, this is how he did it. It was Barbarian versus Bulldog, and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your first match. Introducing first, the Barbarian." It was that fucking fast. He hadn't even stepped out yet. It was like, slow down, Hayes. Shit. Awful.
The thing is, like, for everyone listening, that is exactly what it sounded like.
Awful. And this match, by the way, was literally every Bulldog match in 91. Just swap out Warlord with Barbarian. It was the exact same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
Hero's
I
reception,
mean,
though, fuck it, he got one.
of course. That I think the only time we probably booed the Bulldog was '99 when he was the Jeans Bulldog,
Yeah,
and no one
he's
gave a
not
shit
out
about him
Bulldog
anymore.
anymore.
I can this match. It was, I don't know how long it went, Travis. You've probably got the time there,
This match,
but it
your main
was
event quote, clocked in at 10 minutes, 7 seconds.
Jesus. So out of 10 minutes, I was impressed with his athleticism in the beginning. The sunset flip looked good, and then it just very slowly went downhill. But the crowd loved it. It doesn't matter how slow it was. The crowd ate it up because it was, home. I nearly said hometown hero then. Countryman against a fearsome, well, somewhat heel.
Antlers. The Gorilla Monsoon
Antlers.
even said it on it. He's like, he's lost your brain. He's got no one in his corner, but he's got the antlers or something. He made fun of. And the last
Yeah.
guy I ever want to make fun of that he will hear later on is Barbarian. So,
Yeah.
but I will say the finish. I thought the finish was okay. It was actually. I think Barbarian that set up into the power slam. It was fine. Like it could have been way worse.
Yeah. I mean, again, television match. And you can say that about every match on this card. It would have gone well on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge.
Exactly.
There was nothing special about them. It was just a match to really whet the appetite for the Battle Royal to come. Davey was never going to lose. Even in 1991, when you didn't know the inner workings of the business, you knew he wasn't going to lose.
Exactly.
So
just didn't happen. It just didn't.
It didn't, and to be fair, that stripped away a lot of interest in the match. If he's in no danger of losing, why are we watching it?
Yeah, pretty much. That would springboard, which is weird considering they had the Bulldog win the Battle Royal next, have the match right before. But thinking about it, it made more sense as like he had and they even said on commentary when he came out for the Battle Royal, he's not fresh, Gorilla, blah blah blah. He just had that war, so it made him look even stronger winning it. That would segue us into the pre-Battle Royal promos. Matt, thoughts on that real quick? Anything stood out to you?
Not really. No. I don't even did I didn't even note them down, Travis. That's how much they stood out to me.
I'm not going to do the blah 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 gimmick again. It writes itself. It was done here once again. Wrestlers in this. The only wrestler in the 20-man battle royal for the Saddle Bomb Trophy that wasn't in a match prior was Roddy Piper.
Yes. And that's what makes me think they swapped him out for Hogan, because if Hogan had been on the card, he'd have just been in the Battle Royal. Yeah. So, like we said at the beginning of the show, it made more sense to have Piper there because he could continue the feud with Flair.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'd have rather have seen Roddy Piper than Hulk Hogan. I wasn't a huge Hulk Hogan fan as a kid. I was more an Ultimate Warrior guy. So,
quite frankly, I think Piper was over in the UK more at the time than Hogan. Yeah. I think Hogan was returning.
Yeah. Maybe because a lot of people actually believed he was Scottish for a while. But,
or Irish, or whatever the Hogan is. I think it's Irish. Some of the
we
order of elimination on here. Yeah, some of the order of elimination on here. It's really sad that a couple years earlier he was NWA World Champion, but Kerry Von Erich eliminated second by the Nasty Boys, just dumped out in 2 minutes, like sack shit.
Yeah, but then let's be honest. Like, would you have wanted him to go longer in the state he was in? I mean,
no.
This wasn't Kerry Von Erich at his finest. This wasn't world class Kerry Von Erich. This was smashed off his tits. Needs another line before he passes out, Kerry Von Erich. So
that's new. I smell a new T-shirt with your face on it. # smashed off his tits.
Then underneath #Union Smack.
Yes,
Union smacked off his tits. There you go.
Union smacked off. There was nothing smashing about this battle royal. This was, guys. This made this year's women's battle royal look like the Rumble '92, one of the best battle royals of all time. Yeah. This was one of the worst phoned in. It literally looked like I was watching it in like the slow motion. It was just pathetic. And as soon as the bell rang, the fans, you could tell their excitement was like, "What's this?" Like the guys, they were just half-assing it beyond belief.
Yes, and do you know what? Looking back on it, it resembled 20 drug addicts fighting over the last bag of cocaine.
Jesus
Like,
Christ, man. There was a couple look at me spots in here too. A couple guys came off like spoiled little kids in this. The first one was Piper and Flair, right? They to get the shine on them, and that's totally smart. I would have done the same thing. They're in a storyline together, so what do they do together? That made sense. Got everyone talking about them as opposed to the 18 other guys. They went to the outside, right? Piper started chasing Flair.
yeah.
Not even a minute later, Bossman and the Mountie take a cue and do the exact same thing. So it's like, oh fuck, they're getting over. Let's do it too. So that's what that came off like to me. Did you notice that?
I noticed Flair and Piper, but for me, do you know what, Travis? For me, I didn't even register Bossman and Mountie because the best part of the whole show was Flair and Piper, like doing their little thing on the outside, and that's out of a 2.5 hour show.
Yeah.
And by the say I'm fucked now as well. By the point the battle royal came on, I think just tuned out the whole thing. It was just the noise to me. The sooner it finished, the better.
It's a testament to the dedication to not only your friendship in this show that I was very attentive during this battle royal and I actually took notes, but literally it was such a lackluster fucking battle royal. That was my only note were those little shine spots and just the finish, which came down to obviously the British Bulldog, but Typhoon, the other guy in there. Jesus.
Yes.
But the teapot, the
Not
awful looking trophy, went to Davy Boy in a hero's victory.
not even the Undertaker. Like Typhoon. Why not put the Undertaker in there last? You know?
Taker and Piper actually eliminated each other simultaneously on that. Oh no,
Yes, they
no, it
did.
was Piper eliminating
No, it was
Taker.
Flair and Piper.
Yeah.
Hang on, I've got the eliminations written down here.
Well, I got Piper eliminating Taker, and then a couple seconds later, Undertaker like dumped out Piper from the outside. I think it was the John Studd spot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that sort of brought the match into a I eliminate someone eliminates me groove. It's like I've got here. Animal was eliminated by Undertaker. Undertaker was eliminated by Piper. Piper was then eliminated by Undertaker. Bossman was eliminated by the Mountie. Mountie was then eliminated by Typhoon. Typhoon was then eliminated by the Bulldog.
Yeah, the match came down to the Mountie Typhoon and the Bulldog, and that standard cliche 2 against 1, 2 heels against the babyface for him to dump them both out. And it was Typhoon because they always do that too. They did with Bad News Brown and Bret Hart. It was Typhoon. If you think it'd be the other way around, it would have been the Mountie because he was the bigger heel, but no. But I guess it made sense because the Typhoon was huge. So
yeah, but I mean it was Typhoon, wasn't it?
But Sir Matthew of Tennant, man, we have survived the battle at the Royal Albert Hall, my friend. What
We have,
great!
and we also forgot
Good.
to mention Andre the Giant
That's true. How could I forget Andre? Good.
hobbling his way down. What possessed him to force Andre the Giant down that aisle? Like he had to climb steps twice, once to get down, once to get back up. His legs were fucked. You know, he looked horrendous.
Yeah.
You could have picked anyone else.
John Studd
Yeah,
was still alive, right? I mean, there you go.
exactly. Do you know what? The Bulldog had already won 2 matches. He was already loved. You know, you could have brought Hogan out for that moment.
Totally. Because as much of a legend as Andre was and a household name, he didn't have the same star power on him anymore because he was done.
No, he didn't. He was. I mean, how long had he been gone from active competition before that?
A year.
I'm thinking
The Colossal Connection.
Exactly. A year, and they still expected people to care.
And
I
after
know he was
WrestleMania
Andre,
3, after the angle with Hogan, they never booked Andre as a serious guy after that. He was jobbing to Snake and Warrior and just putting guys over.
Yeah.
Oh.
WrestleMania 3, he peaked. Yeah, that was his moment.
That was a swan song. It should have been it.
Fun.
It should have been the last Andre match.
It should have been it. It should have been. And I mean, that was fine, you know, for what he wanted to accomplish. I do like that they made him champion for 30 seconds. It rounded off his career nicely. But WrestleMania 3 really should have been it, you know. the biggest, in inverted commas, main event of all time.
Yeah. Think
But
back,
no,
you're
keep
actually
wheeling
right.
him
Looking
out like a
back, if
fucking
that,
carnival.
I'm kind of glad that wasn't it because we wouldn't have got that, twin referee thing on Saturday night's main event. I feel like when he handed
Yeah.
off DiBiase the belt, maybe that should have been it. Then he became a manager.
Yes.
That was it.
Yeah, but they kept wheeling him out like a fucking novelty act, and I thought, to a degree, Travis, I thought it was cruel the way they kept using him for no reason.
Right. Right. But at the same time, I'm sure Andre wasn't going to argue an easy payday with his health. So it was consensual.
Yeah, I mean, but like, have some fucking, respect for yourself and somebody who served you for years. Like, don't ask him to do it. Put him on I know they didn't exist back then, but put him on some type of Legends contract just to, give him the payday for doing nothing.
Yeah.
To an extent, it was cruel.
Give him a payday for springboarding your promotion from WrestleMania 3, maybe.
Exactly.
What a concept. Speaking of, you say the word respect. Before we sign off this week, Matt, mad respect to one of our most dedicated listeners, Diff Fingers, Matt.
Yes. Thank you for watching. And he's been a great supporter since day one.
He's been right there since day one, listens to us on the job. We love all your guys' feedback. We want to shout out you specifically, my friend, because he was a big fan of the show, and he stuck around 9 months to wait on us. So thank you, man. It means a lot.
He did, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt.
And can I just say as well to everybody, Travis, I sent out a tweet earlier this week who welcomed us back so readily. Like I saw the numbers for last week's show. We're approaching 200, I think.
Yeah, blown away is an understatement. At
so thank you very much.
Exactly. And sorry if we seemed a little bit off on this week's episode, guys. It's been a long week for both of us, and this, not that just reviewing this show alone takes it out of us because it was so bad. But yeah, the next week we'll be on our game more, even though I'm sure you guys think there was no problem. But yeah, Battle Royal at the Albert Hall. I'm glad we never have to go back. What grade, my friend, do we give it overall?
F. I mean, this was the shits, wasn't it? Even though the first two matches were good, to a degree, it was still bad.
F+ on my end, just for the organ entrance. That's it.
There you go. Travis has given Organ an F+. So I think we can leave it there, can't we?
Until next week, Matt. One more time, where can everyone catch me?
You can catch me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant and over on Future of Wrestling Podcast with Logan. Anytime
on demand, catch it out. Thank you once again, my friend. Until next week, once again, follow me on Twitter at TheBigTV. Hit that subscriber right down below. Listen to the reset button. Slam Pigs Podcast never drew a dime. Slam Pigs Union Smack. All the goodness. Until next week, Slam Pigs Union Smack. Cheerio.